the questions to Rebecca, but I would also say, I wondered where Nicola was in, using some of these things to advance that discussion as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to give my 2 cents on that first. One of my kind of key thoughts around this is that all of the different types of data that we're talking about have people have different levels of confidence in them, and they have very different price tags. Like big data generally is something you kind of, put something like pretty splashy together relatively quickly at a relatively low price point relative to something like going door to door and doing a census. I think one thing that we really need to get better at as a community is understanding how we can bring those things together. So a really good example of that, I think, is like a lot of the data you just mentioned is possible to get to some extent from like mobile phone companies or from Facebook or from products like that. But those data, like they also show you where the holes are. Like if you, in most countries, like you will know where people don't have access to cell phones because there'll be like kind of the phones that people rent that kind of make like a massive number of very short calls in particular locations. And I feel like we could do a lot of work to kind of bring together data like that, like big data with like small data, like the stuff that we're collecting that is like exactly covering that leave no one behind portion. And we know it's more expensive and difficult to do that, but like there's a reason that we could kind of bring those things together, and that integration seems to be pretty there's not that many kind of partnerships which work on that integration right now. So I think for me that would be like the most kind of wonderful thing we could achieve as a community, and kind of looking at how to make those things more complementary.
Thanks, Rebecca. Nicola, any thoughts?
I guess the only thing that I would add, so I come from a climate background, but through my work, I would say that actually vulnerability is absolutely critical, and I don't think we focus enough on that at all. So in the applications that I've been involved in, looking at solutions for countries, it's one, impossible to design a good anticipatory system unless you have good vulnerability data. And one of the big challenges there is that vulnerability is not static. We often assume that it is. It changes significantly over time, within the year, between years. And so, it's hard just to get a view on static vulnerability, but actually to be collecting that real-time data. And that's where you're very much reliant on local communities, working with government to understand that, how that vulnerability is changing over time. And for me, I think that's one of the next big challenges that we should be addressing. I always say climate is the easy bit. It's everything else is the hard bit.
I think those are great points. It's something, even at my role at NASA, it's something that I'm trying to get us to think more about as well. And frankly, I think this conversation among this group of panelists could probably last the rest of the session. I have a million questions for all of you. I think that lead to really how we move forward. But I think a key point certainly is, this idea of, having these frank conversations about what is lacking, partnering with the right people who can help advance that, because there's certainly no silver bullet, but there's no individual that's going to come up with like the solution for any of these challenges either. So maybe with this, there are other questions, but I think we need to keep moving into our future. And so I'll turn it now over to Cara to review what we learned in Miro from everyone's participation, and thank our speakers again. It was really enjoyable to hear from all of you.
You are mute. Sorry.
Yes. So yes, thank you for the presenters. Really fascinating input that you gave us, and also for the participants for asking the questions and providing some of the comments. I saw also some additional ones from Mark and Thorsten just in the chat box. So this input collection, it would be really important as well for the second session, although we are entering the networking more fun part of the session. It's also about exchanging what is needed, what we are looking for in terms of the areas of collaboration. Just to remind, we will have the Climate Risk Early Warning Systems Initiative, we will have the Risk Informal Action Partnership, we will have INSA Resilience, we have NASA for Earth observation for humanitarian action, and myself for the Anticipation Hub. So this is the input that we will bring back, and we also want to see what you have here. So we see some technical things such as impact-based forecasting modeling framework. We have predictive modeling tools. We also have some input that actually calls for the linkage between anticipatory action, maybe in the longer time scale, looking into resilience. Many inputs are also around coordination, communication, and also having engagement with more at the policy level, more collaboration, and then on the what people are looking for, what participants are looking for to strengthen, to improve, or to complement their work on early action. Open data, we sounds like joy to the ear. Access for people who don't have internet, anticipation of conflict impact. So we heard also the intention, for example, from the German Red Cross to look into anticipatory action in non-hydrometeorological hazards, evidence-based tools, building resilience into pop culture. Wow, that is interesting. Please elaborate that on the comment box, whoever put that comment, or maybe talk about it in the mingle session. Better stakeholder engagement, again, data literacy, and others. So vulnerability, two inputs on vulnerability, understanding of vulnerability at hyper-local level, which we also heard from Rebecca. So if you want to continue putting your input on Miro, we're very happy to, to receive them. They're still there and until the end of the session. And before we move on to the mingle session, I'll transfer to Shanna to share with us her crystal ball. Over to you, Shanna.
Thank you, Cara. So this marks essentially the end of the first part of our session, which was learning more about all of the different activities and people that are working in this sphere of anticipatory action or early action. And so I think, as Cara mentioned, we'll be moving now into the mingle session where you can learn a little bit more about us and talk with us and network with us. But I think a shared vision that we seem to all have is really finding ways to bring, I think, differing types of information together in a way that is helpful in the areas of exposure and vulnerability that are mentioned. But really, I think what is also of great importance is understanding the capacities that are needed for really being able to connect all of this information, because there's just more and more of it, directly to the types of decisions that are going to advance our ability to act earlier and mitigate some of the variable vulnerability that our speakers discussed. And so I would say in particular, one of the things that's come up really not just in this session, but in a few sessions I've seen throughout the week at Understanding Risk, is this idea that not everyone has access to the things that we're doing. And, figuring out ways that are innovative yet still trusted to get this information and the knowledge in people's hands that can do something with it is one of our large challenges that I think we're confronting. We can work with national governments. That's certainly a first step. And all of our partners, of course, are helping disseminate information at different levels, but really working with local communities is a key element for change. And so I would just maybe end there. I see a lot of opportunity in our future. I specifically think that that's done through partnerships. There is no one person that will do this alone. And so maybe I'll just stop there and say thanks so much to all of you for joining the first part of our session. We're going to break, I guess, maybe for just a minute in case you would like to grab some water. And then we'll go directly into our mingle session.
Yeah, Francie, can you take us to the cafe? Thank you so much, Shanna. So again, this is your moment. you know, we're finished now with the let's say the more serious part of the session, and you know, Shanna and I, we work closely together, but we also, you know, miss the part of the non-work that we used to have when we go to conferences. So last Understanding Risk 2 years ago was my first time. I think it was really nice. I felt that I learned not only, you know, doing and presenting, but I actually learned a lot from the community. And you know, it was Mexico City. It was nice also outside, so we would go and grab a drink. And of course, the hope this year, before the pandemic started, was to meet in Singapore. So we thought, okay, we cannot meet, but at least we can also exchange in a more informal way and maybe gather more people than we are normally gathering in a table of 5. So I think, oh, actually we are almost 5 p.m. here. So 1 minute more if you want to grab a drink and relax and take off the socks. Okay, gonna play a little bit of music. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our cafe. Okay, so we're back in the cafe, and we all have you still here with us. So actually, can you show the slides, Franzi? The first slide. Oh, is there a slide situation? Okay, so yes. Again, we talk about solutions at the beginning of the session. And again, I think there's a common, let's say, intention or ambition to want to do more anticipatory action, early action. We want to better anticipate disasters with the various tools and solutions provided or shared today. And this picture, you know, also shows us, demonstrate the choices we have, whether we want to work with the person from Earth observation or the finance person and the weatherman. And I actually, Liz from Reading University said we should have a weather woman or a female meteorologist there. So we'll change the picture next time. Or the scientist or the humanitarian. So basically in this session, we created an app or what is let's say, a mock of an app called Mingle. It's about basically mixing ideas and getting together. So we prepared a few, let's say, profile. If imagine we have Tinder, but instead of, you know, looking for dates, we are looking for partnership and early action. So then we're going to show you the profiles of our partners, starting from Daniel Stadtmuller from Inser Resilience. Daniel, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kara, and hello to everyone. Really happy to be part of this. So I'm Daniel. I'm a senior policy advisor at the Secretariat of the Inser Resilience Global Partnership, and that brings me to perhaps my first slide. What is my initiative called? So the partnership aims at protecting the lives and livelihoods of the most vulnerable people by providing what we call prearranged financing to support early action, relief, and recovery. So we try to bundle and rally efforts on a global scale on instruments like contingent credit, budget reserves, insurance, to really ensure that finances are there when disasters strike, or even before a disaster unfolds. And we know that this can contribute to resilience, to addressing the immediate needs after disasters, but also that by having these finances when needed, we can reduce public liabilities on a governmental level. And that avoids allocating or having to reallocate scarce resources within the national budget, for example, or having to borrow on very poor financing terms directly after a disaster. So specifically, our two goals are to protect 500 million people by 2025, vulnerable people, and to provide, to support 80 countries with comprehensive risk financing strategies by 2025 as well. Next slide, please. So yes, what am I most known for in my organization? Well, I've done the apparently unusual move to actually go from the private sector to the development sector. So formerly a reinsurance person, now in the development world. So I'm most known for being the insurance guy in my organization. And I guess some people believe that I'm trying to solve many of the problems we are talking about today by selling insurance to everyone, whereas I would say it's actually the opposite. My motivation to having moved from insurance to development is more to apply the tools of insurance and the underlying mechanisms and considerations to really help address the urgent, resilient needs and support development. Next slide, please. So why should you be interested in our initiative? Well, we are a multi-stakeholder partnership with many different donors, countries, implementing partners, academic institutions, civil society organizations, private sector companies. And our goal is really to create an environment of collaboration. We've heard already in this session that partnerships are key, that it's key to really work synergetically to ensure coherence in countries, but also convergence in the sense that we don't look at insurance or risk financing as a siloed approach, but that we really connect it to a wider strategy, to national adaptation plans, to national disaster risk reduction plans, or to climate ambitions like NDCs. And finally, we also have a repository of knowledge, many different events, a knowledge hub, which is online, and working groups that work on specific areas of risk financing and insurance. Next slide, please. So what am I personally looking for in a partnership? I would say pragmatism in the sense that I really appreciate conversations that are focused on concrete problems that we can look at hands-on, how to solve them, that we can move as fast as possible from policy to in-country practice. I also appreciate honesty. I think it's crucial for a sustainable partnership to be open about the motivations, the interests, the needs, and to build on that basis. And ultimately, and this is also a big part of what we're doing today, to enjoy the collaboration, to enjoy the partnership, and to have fun while we tackle the many challenges ahead. And final slide, please. So what keeps me awake at night? I think I'm not the only one to probably say that my inbox keeps me awake at night, especially now during this very busy end of the year phase. I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and realize, oh, there's this one email that I forgot to reply to. I need to really do that tomorrow. Otherwise, it's getting too late. And the second thing I would say that keeps me up at night right now is I'm a terrible gift giver. And with Christmas coming up, I really worry about what gifts to give to my family and friends. So those are the two things that are keeping me awake at night at the moment. And with that, thank you very much. And back to you, Kara.
Thank you, Daniel. That was really fascinating. So next is our Shanna, who will share with us her Mingle profile. Over to you, Shanna. Oh, you're muted, Shanna.
Your Shanna is about to present. Hi, everyone. My name is Shanna McClain. I work for NASA's Earth Sciences Division. I fulfill a lot of roles, as many of us probably do. But one of them is a little bit more personal, I think, to me. Prior to working with NASA, I had worked at UN OCHA. I have a lot of I think background and interest in just the humanitarian sector, and the ways that we can bridge some of the gaps between the knowledge that's taking place on the ground at a very local level and the information that we have about our Earth as a system and our way of visualizing it at different levels, and bringing that into the picture, like integrating it with these localized and more qualitative perspectives. And so my answer to this when I came to NASA was to take some of the work I had done with OCHA and their Joint Environment Unit on the environment and humanitarian action work and turn it into Earth observations for humanitarian action. And so a lot of this is just, it's not just about bridging some of these gaps between data and decisions, but it's also about, again, I go back, as I often do, about partnerships, because it's not just about, I think, us working together to create innovative or solutions to complex challenges that maybe we wouldn't if we weren't working together. But there's a language or a dialogue that needs to happen between different communities, because we don't have people who are there to translate some of the incredibly scientific elements of, let's say, NASA data, for example, to a humanitarian in the field. And many would argue, in fact, that we don't actually need to do that, but that we do need to find better ways of connecting to those who do, the right paths or conduits to ensuring that that path is more streamlined. And so Earth observations for humanitarian action is what I'm focusing on today. If you're interested in learning more, then you definitely want to mingle with me. Next slide. And, you know, we were asked to describe ourselves. I am, I found this online. I thought it was hilarious. I'm a GERD. The point really is that I have a science background. I'm an environmental scientist, but I'm also a policy geek, if you will. And so I think it's important that when we are approaching this, that it's not just about partnerships and different perspectives, but we need to really merge and marry disciplines. And so I take a lot of what I've done in my past and bring it forward at my work with NASA and also in this EO4HA initiative to really try to understand the paths and connect decisions to the data that's available. Next slide. I'm most probably, hopefully known at NASA by my colleagues for creative thinking. And it's probably just creative because I'm not a typical NASA person. You know, NASA is an incredible space agency that is building satellites and sending people to the moon and to Mars. And I am a humanitarian surrounded by data scientists and engineers. And so I think I help bring people the human elements that we need to be considering when we're looking at Earth as a system, so that we're not just looking at maybe the hydrologic cycle or food insecurity without considering the drivers of this, which are largely human focused. And it doesn't mean that we're responsible directly, but the way that we govern resources, whether there's conflict or destruction of resources or inequitable sharing, all of these things play a role. And I bring that to the job that I do. Next slide. And I mean, clearly, I think I've already said this. I mean, all of this is done with the idea that we can hopefully advance in a way that's meeting these needs of humanitarians that are working in really complex settings. And I think that's a theme that we all share. And so it's nice to know I'm not alone. Next slide. And as far as what I'm looking in for in a partner, you know, I think there's so much to be done. We have to be creative, probably a little crazy. A lot of us are. And so you can't just, I think, be expecting to keep the same static perspectives. We really need to reflect the diversity that exists. And think creatively and across sectors, across levels of governance, and in order to like really find innovations and hybrid solutions to these problems. Next slide. And yeah, I mean, this probably keeps everyone awake. I mean, you know, gift giving also makes me extremely nervous because Amazon is very slow in shipping things these days. But I would say that doing the same thing over again, like over and over. I mean, I think we are a group of peers. The Understanding Risk Forum itself brings us together, as Kara mentioned earlier. And, you know, I feel like we commonly talk about the same things, but we need to figure out what it is that's going to really shift the needle. I think this anticipatory action element and the focus there is really one of these opportunities. And so I want to stop talking about what we already know, and I want to get ahead of, you know, the challenges and really work towards solutions. Next slide. And yeah, so I've said partner probably 100 times in this session, so I really like it. I like working with people. I only believe that that's how we get ahead, frankly. But I also really love puns, and so I'll just end on probably a really ridiculously corny note and say that I love this pun. His theory of inertia never seemed to gain momentum, which probably just highlights my entire Mingle profile. Kara, back over to you.
Thank you, Shanna. I'm from finance, insurance to Earth observation. Very different worlds, but equally, let's say, fascinating and entertaining. Also, your profiles. Thanks so much. So we move on now to John Harding from the Cruise Initiative. John, over to you. John.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
And in the very unlikely case that you haven't found a partner yet from the previous presentations, let me quickly run through my profile. You can provide the first slide. So my name's John Harding, and I work for an initiative called Climate Risk Early Warning Systems Crews. We do have a few, I think we call them homonyms out there. We don't have any problem with any of them, but no, we prefer not to be confused with any of the other cruises out there. You can go to the next slide. So basically, cruise is a very, you know, is addressing one pretty simple concept, even though the solutions don't always seem to be that simple to us. Basically, the risk of losing one's life to disasters is going down in most countries, except in LECs and SIDS where it's going up. and we are looking to build the capacity in those countries to reverse that trend. So we're building early warning systems, and we heard a lot in the discussions today. I think Nicola mentioned it and others, that we, in order to have a good anticipatory approach, you need a lot of data, and we are providing some of that data, or we're trying to build up the institutions to provide some of that data when it comes to forecasting and prediction of certain types of hazards which are most relevant in a given country, but we also support the compilation of historical data. Next one, please. So we like to describe ourselves as small but effective, and I know that's not the best way to describe yourself on a dating application, but that literally is how we are. We're not the largest climate fund out there, but we try and make the most use of resources the most effectively possible through long-term engagement with the countries where we work, through ensuring ownership, sustainability of our solutions. Next one, please. Well, we currently work in 50 countries. Actually, we cover we just approved recently the Indian Ocean region, so we cover probably most of the regions where we have small island developing states, and we're looking to learn, to build our practice in a more effective way. We want to be more focused on the early action side of early warning systems, and that's why we're looking to strengthen our outreach and our partnerships. And if I can have the next slide. What we are looking for in our partnerships, we are looking for anyone who has good practices, good solutions that we can apply in the countries where we work. We're specifically interested in anything that can help us deliver on what we call the last mile. So the early action component, we're pretty solid on the upstream, the forecasting, the prediction side, but the last mile remains a real challenge for us. And next slide. I have the slides frozen. Well, the fact that I think this year we had more hurricanes in the Atlantic, or let's say more high intensity hurricanes than ever before, is certainly a concern. It's hard to keep up. There've been so many, and that's a real concern. In fact, on my next slide. Well, we enjoy long walks on the beach at sunset if we have a good early warning system in place, which makes us feel protected. So that's us in a nutshell. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thanks, John. So that's John from the Climate Risk Early Warning Systems. We move on again to from early warning to early action. So now we have Ben Webster, who heads the Secretariat of the Risk Informed Early Action Partnership. Ben, over to you.
Thanks, Cara, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Really good to be with you. So REAP, or the Risk Informed Early Action Partnership, was launched at the UN Climate Action Summit last year because we've heard today that there have been great strides and advances in terms of the forecasting and predicting capability, as John has just mentioned, and also advances on early action, anticipatory action, as we'd heard from Anticipation Hub colleagues and IFRC and some of the other humanitarians who've been using this early warning data and systems to then take early and anticipatory action. But there's a recognition that we really need to take this to scale so that more people can benefit, and therefore this partnership brought together convening agencies and stakeholders and set a target of reaching 1 billion people in the next 5 years with these anticipatory approaches. So I've taken the dating app theme to heart, and I've described us as the matchmaker's matchmaker. So being a network of networks, we have countries and governments, UN agencies, the Red Cross Red Crescent network, civil society networks like START, multilateral development banks, climate science, academic community, development, humanitarian, private sector, we are highly likely, if you come to us, to put you in touch with somebody else, because we want to matchmake between all these different communities, all these different actors, so that together we can see collaborative efforts have greater impact. I think we've heard today that there's so much capability out there, but we need to be able to work together to be able to see this scale achieved. So what are we looking for in partnership? Well, firstly, diversity, as I've already mentioned, we want to work across all those different communities. Volume, the more the merrier. The partnership is open to all, and we would welcome you with open arms. Size doesn't matter, so there are huge agencies involved and donor countries and so on, but there are smaller agencies too. So size is certainly not an issue. Commitment, we do want commitment, so not just logos on a page, but we want to see commitments as to how each of the partners will help us drive scale in the coming years. And I've put there enjoys travel, so you don't have to travel, but we are looking for partners right across the world so that we can see these approaches rolled out, benefiting more people, as I've already said. So last slide, or last couple of slides. What keeps me awake at night? I guess the alternative. What happens if we don't take these anticipatory approaches to scale? We've already heard that, you know, the weather is changing. We will see more extreme weather events. So if we are not able to take these pilots and programs to the scale that's necessary, then there are going to be millions and millions of people who are suffering because of the effects of climate change. I'm also kept awake by trying to move from words into commitments and from commitments into action. Our partnership has a tight time frame over the coming 5 years, so we really want to drive momentum and give a sense of urgency to this agenda. And then also silos, divisions, competition, you know, across different sectors, different communities, different organizations. We're used to divisions and working in silos and having our own agendas and so on, but that will not work when we're talking about the issues of this kind of scale. So we will need to get better at working together. So final slide. What sparks joy? Well, collaboration, as we've already talked about, foresight, thinking ahead, people who can really see where the opportunities are and to help us join the dots. And I love this phrase, Ubuntu from Southern Africa, this sense of togetherness which takes us beyond ourselves. I think it means something like, I am because you are. We are in this together. And so as a partnership, we really want to draw on the capabilities, the capacities, and coordinate joint efforts so that we can drive scale on this agenda. Thanks, Cara.
Thanks, Ben. Wow, after 4 speakers with super great profile, now I'm under pressure to actually, share my profile of our initiative. So again, oops, sorry. My name is Cara Siahan. I am, for the anticipation, the lead for network and policy. Next slide, please. So the Anticipation Hub is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, it's a knowledge and exchange platform to develop the learning, exchanging the practice, best practices, gathering evidence, and evidence-based informed advocacy. And as Stephanie also mentioned, the Anticipation Hub is looking into expanding the work for anticipatory action beyond non-hydrometeorological hazard. And I guess what we want to say is that we are the initiative for the doers. So we really want basically the organizations, the people who are going to develop these approaches all over the world to be able to have the tools, to have improved methodology, to go out there and do the work. So Anticipation Hub, next please. Why should we be interested? You be interested in our initiative? So I said it at the beginning, but just want to reiterate again, we have the ambition now, the Red Cross, Red Crescent, we have over 30 countries implementing the approach, and together with our UN partners, we are working in more than 60 countries. So how do we do more, do better together? That's kind of our slogan now for anticipatory action and for the Anticipation Hub as well. More is about doing more anticipatory action, so covering more hazard, reaching more people and covering more geographic areas. And in terms of better, we heard about data, heard about also impact modeling. So how can we do our work better? And together, I think, we want to move beyond, this is what was the practice maybe 3-4 years ago, really agency-based mechanism into a scaled-up approach where every organization could play its role in contributing to the scale-up, and basically also presenting or promoting different expertise that could, as a whole, contribute to the scale-up process. Next, please. So what am I most known in my organization? So I like to think that I am the person who likes to connect the dots. So we heard a lot about collaboration, cooperation. I am very much, let's say, fond of creating new solutions that work, of course. But that's why, for example, I am linking up with Shanna around Earth observation for anticipatory action. Of course, the idea is making an impact. How can creative solutions and collaboration make an impact? And where can I connect the dots between INSA Resilience, between REAP, between CRUISE, between NASA? And I like to inject also a little bit of fun in my work. So you see there my roller skates. I'm not lying, those are actually requested as a mission, let's say, equipment to bring to, I'm actually now in Berlin, I usually am based in Geneva, to bring. So you will find out maybe if you look at our, or visit our dialogue platform on anticipatory humanitarian action. I'm also about policing manels and wanels, man panels and white panels. So I'm for, let's say, a diversity, and I will call you out if you are having or organizing manels or wanels. And I'm part of the, I don't know whether you could see it, the Sensible Women of Early Action, an underground group of women who are working on early action and basically trying to advance the agenda that I mentioned. Next, please. What keeps me awake at night are several things. Inefficiency and bureaucracy. Of course, we have to follow procedures, progress, but more and more, we are also finding creative way to be more efficient, to, let's say, have a common ambition. So can we get rid of those? And second is, I think the same as Ben mentioned about silos and also more specifically territoriality. I think we can do more, we can reach more if we also try to unpack this and actually avoid these issues altogether. And I am, although I'm from a tropical country, and I grew up seeing cockroaches. I'm really afraid of cockroaches, so that will keep me awake at night if I see them nearby. Next, please. What sparks joy in me? Again, collaboration for impact. I think forecast-based financing, what you call it, anticipatory action has been really coined as this innovative new approach. But let's try to move from being innovative to being impactful as well. How do we scale up together? So again, very welcome, of course, with the partnership that could help us create better and more impacts in the communities at risk. We are super delighted that we have now, many of you are actually here in the call, in the meeting. We have 50 partners already signed up, more than 50 partners. And we will see them in the official launch on the 8th of December next week. It's going to be organized alongside the dialogue platform. And I am also very fond of puppies. Puppies spark joy in me. Next, please. Is that it? Okay, so now it's time for you to mingle. So I hope that after being inspired by Ben, by John, by Shanna, by Daniel, and I, you also want to share your profile. So we obviously don't have time for you to actually go over and put your photo and type up in a, let's say, digital document, but we're going to give you just 10 minutes, maybe around 10 minutes, to do a little speed dating. So we're going to break you up into group of 3. So Francisca has already put a link to the document. So there's a document that has all these profile slides. So you can choose which profile description you want to share with the others. But if you can spend, maybe we have less time now, maybe 3 to 4 minutes for each group of 4 people, and you can use this profile descriptor to share your thoughts and to tell people what you're looking for. So that's the mingle instruction. Before we go to the breakout group, make sure that you actually click on it and look at the profile. Okay, so we start now. Franzi, if you can break us up into groups of 4. I hope you had fun stalking your profile. Now we're going to go quickly to the next round of mingling with the mingle descriptors. Francie, second one. Okay, thank you everyone for joining in, and I hope you had a little bit of fun. I saw that John and Ben were coupled in the second one. I guess you know that they have done a lot of datings before between Cruz and Reed. So we need to figure out maybe how to randomize the dates, the groups better. But we hope you had fun. So again, for the Anticipation Hub, we're constantly trying to find ways to deliver exchanges and exchange of information, knowledge in new, exciting, and hopefully fun ways that help people engage in making the series more enjoyable to discuss. So we prepared a short, super short survey, maybe just for 2 minutes for you to share with us your experience. Again, we want to bring it back. We have an online platform. We're also developing different learning activities throughout the year. We're planning webinars. Some of you are already planning to work with us in terms of developing content. So we want to hear more from you. So next 2 minutes, we'd like for you to input. Francie put already the link to the type form. So quick and easy 3-question survey. Thanks so much.
Kara, we don't have, there it is.
Okay, I think just a few more seconds, 20 seconds. I will share the result of your input. Thank you, everyone. It's really almost like a conference, you know. At the beginning, it started with many people, and the ones remaining are the ones who are, you know, going out for the networking parts. So hopefully, we were able to recreate some of the, let's say, ambience or the experience that we have when we are actually meeting in person. So can you see my screen, Shanna, others?
Yes.
Okay, good. So based on your responses, more than 70, actually 80% found it positive. That's good. 15% said it was all right. Yes. At least nobody said it's negative. What do you like most about the experience? Quick and to the point interactions, meeting lots of people, new ways of interacting, friendly, much more interactive than standard virtual conference. Broad representation of different actors, new people, dynamic, originality, meeting, unconventional. Very glad to hear that those responses. And what do you think could still be improved? More rounds rather than just 2? Yes, probably you're right. Maybe it could be done at the beginning. Yeah, we could consider that. Maybe it's better as an icebreaker to warm things up before we get into the serious conversation. Let's think about that. Breakout chats to be longer. Breakout sessions were too short. Sorry about that. We were actually, Franzi and I, Francisca is the one also supporting the session tech. We were saying, should we do more or less? But we were not sure, and we thought it's actually quite late for some of you here. More time, it seems the more time factor is the recommendation. The tech, yes, we need to improve that. Shorter profiles and new people, absolutely. So we're gonna run an improved version of this mingle exercise next week at the dialogue platform. So thank you again for the responses. And I have something in my eye. Oh gosh, some dust, I think. Oh, luckily I'm not in video. Sorry for that. Okay, so handing over to. Well, do we still have a presentation? Yes, I think there's some announcement that I like to make after I've finished wiping my teary eye, tears of joy. Yeah, so as we discussed, we have the Anticipation Hub launching next week on the 8th of December. So it's again a global event, of course, like anything, it will be virtual. So we really would welcome you there at the launch. And again, it's part of the dialogue platform on anticipatory humanitarian action. It's a 3-day event from 8 to 10. We have 42 sessions already planned, a mix between plenary and also breakout sessions. And lots of all things anticipatory action. And some of you are actually already contributing to hosting those sessions. So very much looking forward to to having you there. I don't know what's happening with my eyes. But yeah, so Shanna and I, we want just to end the session with sharing a little bit our vision for what we hope for 2021. And over to you, Shanna, while I wipe my eyes.
Thank you, Cara. Thank you all so much for attending our session, for riding along on this adventure with us. I think that I would say that there are likely two things that I see for your future. One, if you are interested, please do join the dialogue platform, which will take place next week. I'm putting together a working group on Earth observations for anticipatory action. We would love to hear from you. And then more into the 2021 future, I would just say that we've talked a lot today about what's needed. Some of these are the fact that we need better data streams and interoperability and working together, not just I think there's a lot of people in this room, well, virtually in this room, that have a lot of expertise, but we really need to get better, I think, at forming the partnerships that are going to, bridge the gap, move these things forward, particularly when it comes to anticipatory action. I think that there's a lot that we'll get to look forward to in 2021 in terms of this. And I would say that solutions to complex challenges take time. There's a lot of learning involved, but this is one really incredible step, I think, towards moving in the right direction for early action. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful experience, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
And thank you, Shanna. Just some last words from my side. I think, again, reiterating what we said about wanting to build meaningful exchanges around the partnerships that we want. And again, it's been a very challenging year. And also for next year, for the next week, we have a couple of sessions organized between ourselves and the Inter-Resilience Partnership Forum. I will be speaking there, and we have also colleagues from Inter-Resilience in our platform. So again, engaging. But just to end with some notes that, you know, we're looking at the challenging year and looking at the challenges across and in the future, we definitely should work closely together, and I'm very happy that you have been engaging in this session. And yeah, let's continue to, you know, learn with some humility and adding the elements of the human and the humor in the way that we work. So again, if we don't see you next week at the Dialogue platform, we definitely wish you the best for the next year. And with that, we close the session. Thank you so much, everyone.